Welcome to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Geisel. This podcast is dedicated to helping you create a life that sets your soul on fire. I believe that is truly possible for everybody, but you have to be willing to do a few things. You have to be willing to let go of your past conditioning. You have to be willing to break free from societal norms. And you have to be willing to get really curious about your life and how you can start to look at it differently. Each week, we will hear stories from people who have done exactly this. People who chose to disrupt the life path they were on, go against the grain, and share the lessons and perspective shifts they had to make along the way. Every episode is committed to not only inspiring you and connecting you with other amazing humans, but actually giving you the tools you need to use this information in your own life so that you continue to evolve and reconnect with your highest self. Are you ready? Let's have some fun. Welcome back to another episode of the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm excited to introduce you to Fallon. So this week, I chatted with my friend Fallon. She is the Note Ninja, and she's on her journey in entrepreneurship and the creator of the Ninja Notebook. She has become a business mentor, an office supply addict, and part creator of the C.O.D.E process. Fallon started her coaching business in 2019. She started her coaching journey by returning to the one thing that gave her life massive structure and clarity, which was crew. She believes that every entrepreneur deserves to have clear, structured systems that integrate into their business so that they can understand their notes, get organized, and profit as a result. So Fallon was fired from her corporate job, which you'll hear more about in this episode, and she made the shift to being a full-time entrepreneur. When she started her business, she felt so lost and stuck, and after 9 months of not having clarity on what she wanted to do, she realized she had to do something more. She knew that she was meant for more, and she kept seeing this tiny spark inside of her that inspired her to continue to be persistent and resilient. You are going to love this episode because we talk about the birth of the Ninja Notebook and how it literally changed every single thing in her journey. And she didn't really know the how, but it wasn't until she got clear on what she really, really wanted that everything started to shift for her. So I will let you listen to the episode to get all of the other beautiful things. She has got such a fun, amazing personality. She is just an epic human being. And so let me introduce you to Fallon Moran. Let's do this. Okay, Fallon, welcome to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with us today and just beyond grateful that you were willing to take the time to share your story with us and just be with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Cheesing over here.
We're always cheesing, nothing but smiles on this podcast. Okay. In the very beginning, I just love for the listeners to be able to get to know you a little bit better. So I have some rapid fire questions, which I have been switching up a little bit. So let's dive in. The first one has stayed the same now. Where are you from and where are you living now?
I am originally from this little teeny tiny town called Lincoln Park, New Jersey. And I am living now in a teeny tiny town called Lyndhurst, New Jersey. So it didn't really move too far.
I love it. I love it. New Jersey, not a state that I have been to. So we'll have to change that at some point. What is your favorite food?
Okay. So this hands down gets the trophy every single time. I have loved this dinner since I don't even remember when. It's chicken cutlets with broccoli and macaroni and cheese. Favorite dinner of all time. I don't know if it just makes me extremely bland or what, but I just love the way that it tastes.
Is it a nostalgia thing? Where did that?
Yeah, I don't know. And my mom used to make it all the time when we were kids, my brother and I, and it would be the dinner that I told her that I wanted every night. And when I started learning how to cook, it was the dinner that I started cooking all the time because it's easy to kind of cook, you just have to bread the chicken and then steam the broccoli and then make the macaroni and cheese. I mean, don't get me wrong. My macaroni and cheese is at a gourmet game right now. I actually make real pasta with real cheese. So it's not the box stuff anymore, but it just makes it better.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
One time, Andrew's going to be so mad at me. I'm about to throw him under the bus. One time he told me that Kraft macaroni and cheese was gritty. And I was like, what? Like, that's kind of weird. I've never heard that before. Well, he never added any more of the ingredients. He only added the cheese, not like the milk and the butter. So yeah, it's going to be pretty terrible.
That would be why.
So I hope everybody could, I mean, we have all had our moments, right? That was just a funny one. So, okay, what is your favorite song to dance to right now?
Good question. I think it would have to be, um, I think it's the Higher Love with Whitney Houston, the new one, like the remix one. I don't know. I just really like it. It makes me like jam out.
Yes, every time. I can't help but dance. I love it. Okay, so you've done quite a bit of traveling. Where has been your favorite place to travel thus far in your life?
That's a really good question. I really love Europe a lot. If I had to pick any place in particular, I'd say Ireland because it's kind of cool. It's kind of rainy sometimes, but it's really beautiful, gorgeous. Like it's so green. It's like thriving when I think of the landscape there. And I really like it. I really want to go back so bad, like so bad. If you asked me this question, like 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said Germany, hands down, because I've been to Munich like I don't know how many times. I don't even think I could count the amount of times on both of my hands. I need to start recruiting my toes. But I really love just the landscape in Ireland since I've been. So that would be where I would go back for right now. And I'm actually thinking when I used to live in Prague, one of my friends used to talk about how Ireland is very similar to New Zealand. So maybe that'll be on the list for someday in the future.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, so good. All right, this is kind of a fun question. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be the first female president of the United States. Hands down every time. You could ask my mom that question.
That's awesome. There is still time. There is still plenty of time to make that to make that happen.
Yep.
So good. You did not think small.
No,
ever in your
never
life.
have. Nope, not once.
So good. Okay, two more questions. What was your favorite thing to do as a kid?
Ooh, well, I was really big into Irish dancing for quite a long time, but I really would have to say that like journaling and writing was always my go-to no matter what. Like I'd always have a physical activity, but there would always be something that I kind of retreated to, and that was like journaling and writing all the time. I remember my mom gave us composition notebooks when we were kids for over the summer, and she'd be like, "You're going to capture all the things that you do over the summer in this book." And I'd be like, "Oh," but I really enjoyed it. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Irish dancing. That's the first time I've had that one. Also. So I think that when's the last time you did that?
So I stopped when I was in the 6th grade. So I was probably around 11 or 12.
I feel like you should take that back up.
I probably should, but it's really stiff. Like you have to hold your arms next to your body. And it's essentially like you can't have your upper body moving. Like the whole idea is that in Ireland, because it was illegal to dance at the time, if you wanted to dance past like windows, everything in your upper body could not move. Like it couldn't look like you were dancing. So it's like a very rigid kind of dance. It's not really like I know that people can't see what I'm doing right now, but it's like wiggly, like.
Well, okay. So that's really fun. Fun trivia fact for everybody out there. Now you will know if anybody ever asks how Irish dancing became a thing. That's pretty fun. Yes. All right. Last question, which is, well, for this part, what is one way you're really pushing your limits right now?
I think I'm really pushing my limits definitely in my training. And I know that you and I were talking about this not that long ago. I row. So that is definitely one spot that I'm really pushing myself, and I feel it in my muscles physically. But I also would have to say, just in my goals for my business is another spot that I'm really pushing myself. But that one I know I have to be careful with. And I actually cracked it this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I know what's going on now. And I know why I need to just like pump the brakes on it because I can't push it,
Yeah. Oh man, so many good lessons there. That is amazing. So I want to jump in, and I'm glad that you brought it up about your business, because you are pretty damn young
Mhm.
to, and like you've pushed yourself out of a lot of boxes to help bring your dreams of entrepreneurship to life. So what, like, cuz you are 26,
7.
7. Okay,
Yeah.
27. I was pretty close. So you're 27, you own your own business. Like, at
Mhm.
what age did you decide that you like didn't want to work for somebody else any longer?
Oh, this actually was 23, and I remember this vividly because I was working in advertising at the time. And there was one day that I sat at my desk and I actually took my phone out because I was so miserable. And there was a YouTube video that I clicked on, and it was of all of these people traveling the world. And I watched the video from like soup to nuts, the whole thing. And I was just like crying by the end of the video because I was like, I'm stuck in this cube. I literally have to watch this on my phone. Why am I not doing that? And so I was 23 when I realized that I didn't want to work for somebody else and like help propagate their dream because I was being stuck in this box for 80 hours of my week. Well, it might not have been 80 hours. That might be a slight exaggeration, but I was on a team that was going through a really huge launch at the time. So we had to stay in the office until I remember like at least 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning a couple of times. So
Mm.
that was the day that everything changed. And from there, I took a vacation for my 24th birthday. Oh, wait, sorry. No. 23rd birthday. So it was like 2 days before I turned 23, and then I went away to Nevada, and then I came back, and then I was like, I don't know how to do my 2 weeks notice, but this is it. I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice, and that was the day.
Wow. Yeah. So it was like you acted very quickly. So a
Like,
lot of times people get that feeling and then they're like, ooh, they just sit with it for like a pretty long time.
mhm.
But it sounds like for you, it was just like, do you feel like part of that is because like I think about this sometimes, and I think sometimes the older we get, the more we question things because we have more fear, or maybe we've seen more things that could potentially go wrong. And so we're not as likely to like take jumps or leaps of faith as quickly as maybe
Mhm.
when we're younger. Do you feel like that had anything to do with it for you?
You know, I felt like it did take me quite a while compared to like if I was younger, but even now, I feel like I'm more hesitant now than I was then because that was I was terrified when I did it. Don't get me wrong. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know that I'm going to be able to sustain myself. I don't know that I'm going to get income. I don't know that I'm going to be able to pay my bills. And like, granted, I wasn't paying a lot of bills at the time because I was living at home with my parents. But what I did right from there was I moved across the freaking country to Colorado. And that was going to make more of a, financial hindrance on my part because now I had to pay rent and now I had to pay for all these things on my own. So I think no, I didn't really wait then, but like if you were to put me in that situation now, I would probably like question it a little bit and be like, is this something that I want to do? I think ultimately I would still end up doing it because when I look back, I did it when I was 23, I did it when I was 24, I did it when I was 25. And then at 26, I decided to start my business. So like it was a pattern. And until I broke the pattern, it like it would have just kept happening.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to like see that because it was really only 4-ish years ago, right? But the amount that we, like I said, it's kind of like as we continue to get older, we um like I tend to wonder if it's part there might be part logic to it where, like we would maybe wait a little longer, but also I think part of it is that the more and more we abide by societal standards and continue doing the normal, like I'm putting that in air quotes if you're not watching this, um, the more that becomes comfortable and the less we want to break free of it. Like we know like deep within us we want to, but like we just won't let that intuition like take flight, I guess. So when it came, so you didn't start your business right away. You did a lot of traveling, right?
Yeah.
Just in that time.
Yeah. Well, so one of the biggest things when I went away to college that I said to my parents was that I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to take a gap year between high school and college. And my parents were like, no, you're not. You're going to go get your degree. And I was like, okay, I still want to travel. Even by the time I had gotten out of college, at that point, my parents said, well, it's all on you. You know, like it's on you if you want to travel, if you want to pay for it, if you want to do this, then you have to do it. So I did it. um, I just, I remember the day that I packed up my car and I started driving out to Denver and I wound up losing my car keys in my car. And I didn't know how it happened. It was terrifying. So I turned back around and I went home and like I found my car keys under the driver's seat and then I did it all over again. So, you know, it was just, I guess you could say it was just a lot of things that I don't know, I just needed to do. I felt like I needed to see the world. I felt like there was this part of me that I wasn't honoring or respecting. And I knew that I wanted to do it. And granted, when I was literally in college, I thought that it was me racing and traveling the world at the same
Mm.
time, because I'd always had this huge goal for my rowing. And I wound up letting go of rowing. And I think I might have done that prematurely because now I'm back into it and now I can see like, oh yeah, I'm actually really good at it. But I'm glad I traveled the world when I did because I wouldn't have gotten the chance when the pandemic happened. You know, like all of that would have never happened if I hadn't taken the chance when I did.
Mm. It's one of those fun things where you can kind of connect the dots looking backwards, you know,
Yeah.
and see why things unfolded maybe the way that they did. But I love that you weren't willing to kind of let that go by, as scary as it was. What do you think were some of the biggest like perspective shifts or things that you learned about yourself over that 3 years of like traveling?
I think a lot. I mean, I can go over to my bookshelf and grab out all of my journals that I wrote every day. I had this huge perspective shift about time and money and like responsibility and caring for others and relationships and like the list can go on and on and on. I wrote about it every single day. So I definitely had a lot. I think the biggest one that sticks out in my mind is time and money because even when I was working out in Colorado and even when I was working in, you know, the Czech Republic, we were still like I still was I don't like the word slave, but I was still doing it for somebody else. Like I was still making somebody else's dream a reality instead of fully stepping into my own. And I had one foot in and one foot out. I remember when I started this all, and like nobody sees this because I don't talk about it. I paid for a domain called the Abstract Adventurer. And like I had one foot into creating this social media content creation business that I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to start a blog. And I started this blog called the Abstract Adventurer. And then I would still be at that 9 to 5. And I just I couldn't leverage my time well enough with that, you know, job because it was somebody else's dream. And so that was really like the biggest revelation on my part because I realized that my time wasn't going to me.
Mm. So what kind of like what did that lead you into then? Like realizing that you know, I remember that feeling very clearly too, like jumping from deciding to leave my nursing career and that feeling of like, man, like what could I possibly do with if I had an extra 36 to 40 hours a week to work on what I want to bring to life, right? So like after you realized that, where did you go? Like what was the next step?
So I took a vacation. I needed to kind of take a step back because it was kind of like my head was exploding. And so my roommate like a couple months earlier had mentioned that he wanted to go to Oktoberfest. And I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to go to Oktoberfest. We should totally go. And he's like, get a plane ticket. Come on, let's go. So I took a vacation. I went to Munich. We did this huge like Euro trip, and we went to Germany. We went to Amsterdam. We went to England. We went to Italy. We did all of the things. And I really kind of just took a step back from that 9 to 5. I took a step back from that job, and I was like, all right, what is it that's going on? Like, what's going on? What do I want to do? Where do I want to put my time? And I was like, I want to put my time into creating this blog, this, content creator. I thought it was going to be a YouTube. And trust me, I have like all the videos on my YouTube channel still. And I'm like, do I release these to the public? Because they are embarrassing. But that was what I needed to do. I took a 2-week kind of hiatus, and then I came back and I was like, all right, what's the next step? And so from there, I kind of just looked over my options. Like, how could I possibly do this? And at the time, it was getting my certification teaching English so that I could live abroad, have more time to myself and travel, create those videos while I was traveling, get all of that experience, so to speak, under my belt, and then put it all out there. And what I didn't realize was that if I wasn't engaging with people, then nobody watched it. Like, you have to be social on social media. And that didn't come until I started really investing in it and investing in myself and investing in what my idea was. So those were the first couple of steps, like taking a step back and being like, what is this? Figuring it out. And then just kind of learning and then initiating from there.
Oh, I love that. So essentially, for everybody who's listening, step 1, huge revelation about life. Step 2, take a vacation.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm laughing, but it's true. Like, a lot of times we need clarity. We need clarity to make sure that we're seeing a situation accurately, that we're not making a decision based strictly on emotion, that we're making it built on a combination of intellect as well as intuition. And I think a lot of times people actually miss that step. And that's why I'm kind of laughing, because we don't necessarily have to take a 2-week vacation, but you have to remove yourself from a situation and give yourself the pause in order to, I believe, have a lot of clarity moving forward of like, yes, this is for me. No, this isn't. But we can't do that when we're in the mud, when we're like in the nitty gritty. Or, I just had something done and I was like, I am not allowed to make decisions if I'm in the high of high or in the low of low, right? Like, there's going to be a baseline that I am like content. And that's when I get to make decisions, because I'm not going to make the best decisions in like being at the one end of the spectrum or the other, right? Like, so I think that was really fun. And then step 3, make giant decisions that are going to change and alter your life. So perfect.
Yeah.
Those are your 3 steps. If anybody wants to know how you bring your dreams to life.
Yep.
Simple as that. Huge revelation, take a vacation, make giant changes. So I'm glad that we got that through. So I know that your dad owns a company, right? He owns his own business.
Yeah.
So do you think that had anything to do with your choice? Or like, did you learn anything about how you wanted to run a business or didn't want to run a business based on watching your dad be an entrepreneur and be a business owner? Because not a lot of people get exposed to that necessarily. So they don't even think that this is like an option for them.
Yeah. I think a lot of what my dad had a lot of influence over was how I didn't want to run a business. It's not bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that he's doing what he loves and he's doing it the way that he knows how to do it. But when I saw a lot of what happened, because he's in a family business. So when I saw a lot of what happened within my family, I was like, this is not how I would want things to continue to go and to continue to work if I were to be in charge of my own business. So I think he had a lot to do with showing me actually like what would work for me and what wouldn't. And I don't think he meant it in any kind of like, I'm going to teach you how to do it this way. I think he meant it more when I look at it now, as in, this is what I do. This is how it works. And you get to make the decision on if it's right for you or not. So I think even though he's super successful at what he does, I think a lot of what he showed me was not something that I really wanted to continue to work in my own space. So yeah. And it's interesting how that all happened because I don't know much of like the emotions behind any of it, but what I do know is that if I was in that situation, I wouldn't want for that to happen to anybody that, is in my family, like whether it's, like whoever my kids are going to be or like, Tommy, whatever. But that's a lot of that was what came to me when I started to see what he was doing and how everything kind of ran out of that over there.
Well, and I think that relationships are always there to show us something, right? Like, and it's whether that be family, friends, partnerships, like whatever that looks like, is we're either going to learn about what we like, how we really want to do things, or we're going to learn a lot about what we don't want. And that's just as important, knowing what you didn't want to do or like how you didn't want to run a business, it gives you a lot of clarity on where you are, like how you are going to do things. And the fact that, there is no necessarily right or wrong way to run your life, to run a business, to do anything. It's just the way that feels good for you. And being able to have people around you who have done it allows you to see different ways. And I think we can just learn a lot from that. So I think that that's cool that I'm sure it had something to do with the fact that at such a young age, you were like, yeah, why couldn't I run my own business? Like, why couldn't I, because you watched somebody close to you do it. And I think that that's pretty cool because, like I said, it's, when you're in school and you go, to your counselor, it's never like, you can be like a doctor, you can be a social worker, you could be a teacher, or you could be an entrepreneur. Like we just don't really talk about that.
Yeah.
It's not usually an option for people.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. Yeah. Okay. So you have been running your business now for a couple of years. And obviously I've loved hearing like the progression because you always found a way, which I think is really cool. Like even when you were talking about like your big change from like working for somebody else and wanting to start your own thing, like there was another step in there, right? Which was, okay, now I'm going to get certified to teach English. Like you really thought outside of the box there to move yourself forward. And that's really cool because a lot of times I think people think it's like an all or nothing jump, right? Where it's very rarely like that. A lot of times it's, okay, what's the next decision that's going to get me a little bit closer?
Yeah.
Right. And like, I think that that's important. So to just highlight there is sometimes we do have to actually like just take the next closest step, not necessarily the whole step that, and leave everything behind and jump completely to this thing because life just doesn't always work out that way. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be like that. So in the couple of years that you've been running your business, has there ever been a time where you felt like you just wanted to throw in the towel?
Oh God, every single time. Not necessarily every single time, but there was a very vivid time for sure. When I actually did start truly investing in myself and really taking the steps to further my knowledge and to further how to go about doing this, especially online. It was January of 2020. I made an investment, January 27th, 2020. And so it was just before the pandemic happened. So March 16th, 2020 will be a day I will never forget from this point forward, because that was the day I was working a part-time job. And I got a phone call from my boss and he's like, "You're fired." And I never would have thought that I would have heard those words ever in my life. Like, I've always been a really good student. I've always been even though I'm not a corporate person, like I don't like working for jobs, like I've never been told that I was fired before. And so when he said that, I was like, what? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I just started this business and now I have to make it my, my sustenance. And I wound up going through this huge low point because I was in rowing at the time. I actually started my business as a personal trainer, as a rowing coach. And it just like rowing was shut down. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't be around other people. You couldn't breathe outside even without a mask on. And I was like, how is this going to be humanly possible at all? And luckily, rowing has indoor machines, but unfortunately, it was like always this double-edged sword. Unfortunately, all the machines had either been sold in terms of like the company, they've been bought if they were used. So it was really difficult for me to find the people who had these indoor machines and, be able to train them if they wanted to train. And then it was the whole financial bit. Well, now they're all in a tizzy because they're not working. And if they are working, they're working from home and they don't know how to balance their kids, right? Like there was all of these things that kind of like happened at once. And so it was 3 months that we were stuck inside. It was very difficult for me to get out of that low point. And so I want to say it was September of 2020 when I finally connected with somebody and found out what I was really good at that wasn't necessarily rowing and that would kind of take me in a different direction. And things went really, really well. And I was, lucky enough that I got another part-time job so that there was something coming in to cover what we, didn't necessarily have in the summer months. And in November, I got fired again. So it was just this combination of like multiple points that basically looking back, I see it as the universe was basically pushing me to go like both feet in. And I was very hesitant to do it, but it still happened. Like it happened twice in 2020. Like how do you get fired 2 times in a year, unless you're meant to do something. So even though I thought of them as low points, looking back, it was more of I guess you could say I don't know that it's a jumping point, but it was definitely like the universe pushed me into the direction that I'm in now, where I'm 2 feet full into what I am doing as an entrepreneur. So,
yeah. Wow. Okay. And I'm so glad because because sometimes we think low points are like, a couple hours or like maybe a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. And like we realize that there's like, thank you for being so candid about the fact that sometimes it's months on months on months that you're sitting in this, like, what you feel is a shit show, like trying to claw your way out. And you're just like, there's so much that you feel defeated. And I think that something that people don't understand, if you like, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, sometimes people who have never put themselves out there in an entrepreneur type of way don't understand the amount of personal emotion that comes with that. Like it's not just a business. It's not just because it's you. Like it's all you. And it's something that I think is not exactly understood. People, and so yeah, just I think that that's really powerful that you talked about the fact that these lows can last, a while. And so, and it was definitely, now looking back, it's a matter of, were you just, a lot of times we're given obstacles so that we end up pushed in the right direction. Oh, yeah. Because we're going the wrong way. And so we get these obstacles thrown that look like like they look awful, in the moment, but they're really some of the biggest blessings that could have happened. So that's a long time to have been sitting in this place of this is hard, right? So what kept you moving forward?
That's a really good question. When I would sit down and when I would like meditate, I was still writing at the time. I wasn't writing nearly as much as I used to between 2017 and 2019, but I was still writing in 2020. And I would sit down and I was closing my eyes. I would just see this little tiny spark. I don't know what it was within me, but it was this little tiny flame. It was like in a lantern, you know. And I was like, I just have to keep going. I don't know what you call that. Maybe it's resilience, maybe it's grit. I really don't know, but it was this little tiny flame and it was like, you just gotta keep going. And so I kept trying. It was hard. Like I want to say it was March, April, May, June, July. And like July was really hard because I was like lost. I didn't know what to do in the middle of summer. August, September, October, November. That's 9 months. That's 9 months that I was stuck in that. And a lot of people tell you, like they talk at you what's going on. And they say, oh, well, all you have to do is this. Okay, that's great. I'm glad that you can see that. I'm glad that you can tell me how to do it. But what do I have to do? Right? Like you have to give me an exercise or give me some kind of actionable thing in order for me to get out of it, because 9 months is a long time. That's like way more than 30 days. Okay. Like it's 30 times 9. I needed to find something for me to start doing and for me to start working on and for me to start taking action towards, because even though I had this little tiny flame that was inside me that was like, just keep going, like just keep going. I don't know what it was. I cannot tell you. But all that I know was that eventually everything that happened over the course of those 9 months pointed me to the right people. And the right people were then in my, corner, and they were able to help me out. And I know that the cat is now playing with her cat toy, and it's really annoying me. And I don't know if this is going to come over on the podcast, but I just have to say it because that's what I do.
And that is real life. We have cats with cat toys and dogs with squeakers. Sometimes you don't really know what we're going to get. So what was that turning point for you? Because you've mentioned this a couple times, right? Like
Yeah.
I realized that I need to invest in myself and my business. And that you started that process, but that was 9 months prior to even being able to get out of this funk, right? Like you lost a couple of jobs in there. Like you really had all these things. You had this little spark that told you to keep going, but then like, where did these, because like you're in a very, very different place right now. Right. And like when we actually look at that, it was only 7 months ago.
Yeah.
Right. So what were those massive shifts that kind of had to happen for you to change? And like, I met Fallon in the midst of this, right?
Yep.
So I have had the luxury of getting to see this whole thing unfold, which is super fun for me. But what were some of those massive shifts that you had to make?
Well, I definitely had to keep investing in myself, but I needed somebody to like slap me on the hand and be like, why are you doing this? Like, think about this. Use your critical thinking, essentially. And it was funny because we were talking about critical thinking yesterday, but I needed somebody like Stacy, not going to mention any names, to basically say, okay, you are doing this to you. Okay, like you are doing this. You have to realize what you are doing and be able to see what else is happening in the bigger picture. And that was kind of like the biggest turning point, working with somebody who knows like this is how all of this is happening. This is how all of this is connected. And this is how all of this is working right now. And then say, do you see it? And then if I was like, no, I don't see it, then taking that time to sit down and do the things like journal or do the things like meditate or do the things that were really uncomfortable, like really hard sometimes. There was, and you know this, like when we went through that exercise and I found out that the notebook was going to be the one thing that I was going to start to do, it was it was still another big investment. And I was not from the beginning in a really glittery financial space. And I posted about this past week. Like I was in a bunch of debt. Like I was probably 30 grand in debt and I still decided to do it. I decided to put $1,200 into these notebooks. And I just was like vehemently excited about this. I've always wanted to do it. And I've always wanted to create a notebook and a journal. And I did it. And that's how everything changed, because I finally did something that I knew I've always wanted to do. and I did it. Instead of me just learning from other people about how to do something or how I can or how, like, I wasn't focused anymore on the how. I knew how I could do anything. I knew all the hows. Now I had to figure out the what. Like, what about
Mm.
me? Why me? Like the what's and the whys of my part in my business, because it wasn't anybody else's decision. It wasn't anybody else's business. It was mine from the very beginning. And I had to figure out, and it took a lot of time and it took a lot of money, but I'm glad that I figured out it doesn't matter what they say. It matters what I want to do. And so that was the turning point.
Mm.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good. And it was so fun to see this because, like Fallon and I were working together and we we have to look at things from a bird's eye view sometimes, but when we are in it, when we are in the thick of it, it is like impossible. And I always go back to when people are in pain,
Mhm.
they're never going to be able to do anything else because all you can focus on is the pain.
Mhm.
And so the first thing is to get out of that pain. And I think that that can be what it feels like when we feel stuck, in our lives, like nothing's working, all these things, like it's painful, right? And we have to, and that's where we can't see our own blind spots. All right. And so Fallon and I had many of conversations of, listen, like this is exactly like, I know that you can't see this, but from the outside in, this is what we need to, like, this is where you should probably be putting your focus. And I think what was so cool was watching you when you realized that notebook, like I will never forget that phone call between the
Yeah.
two of us. Like it was so fun because it was like, you were like, I'm going to do this. And I was like, yeah, you're going to do this. And you had this thing built and like in production, I want to say in like a week or something. I mean, it was a crazy fast amount of time.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of time on my hands. I had just gotten fired from my job. So it's like, this is what I do now. And so that's what I did. I went through, you know, iterations of what the inner pages were going to look like. I went through iterations of what the table of contents was going to look like. And I remember tossing it in front of a couple of people who were my ideal client at the time. And I was like, what do you think of this? And I kind of like ask them if this was helpful or if they were, kind of looking for something different. And they gave me their feedback and I adjusted as I went. And luckily at the time, because it was basically the end of the year and usually things start to slow up at that time in terms of business, I was able to get the feedback really quickly. So I had I had a Zoom call with a mastermind group that I was in on a Thursday, I think, and I wanna say I had it done the next Thursday after. So it was like 2, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a fast like turnaround. And it's so fun because you could see the passion behind what you were doing. And it like this, what you were creating in that moment um was so you. And
Mhm.
it was so meant for you. And you put so much good energy behind this that like there was no way this thing was going to fall flat. Like I was just so excited to see. I actually have, oh, you can't see them. I have a stack of them in my closet because everybody that works with me gets one. I have 3 of them that I'm using at the moment. Like your notebook is so like I love it. Like it is literally it's amazing. And so just to watch that transformation kind of unfold. And we could sit here and talk about the notebook all day long, but not the movie, but your notebook.
Yeah.
We could also probably talk about, but
Ryan
that is
Gosling.
the power of that's the power of clarity,
Yeah.
of finally having some clarity and also proving to yourself that you could do it. And I think sometimes that's the thing is that it's like, it's not the knowledge. It's what the hell is it within you that is stopping you from crossing that finish line and putting something out there. So through that process of, creating that notebook, what do you think was the biggest perspective shift you had to make about you?
Definitely. And this is I have this revelation constantly, and it's still something I think I'm going to continue having revelations about. The biggest thing that I learned about me is that when I get caught up in the busy work, in like, okay, I have to reach out to these people, or I have to do this, or I have to do that, like I have to focus on this design, or this is the content that I should be putting out. When I get wrapped up in that, that's when I have to take a massive step backwards, because that is, for me, scarcity. That is like the biggest thing that I learned about myself. And like, sometimes it's quicker than other times, usually when I have somebody else to point it out to me. But now I'm like, oh, I know what this is now. I can see it. I know what I have to do. I have to take a massive step back. And like, thank God, because I was meditating today. I was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Like, how can I push this all forward? And literally the vision that came into my head was the starry night sky in Sedona, because I'm going to be in Sedona in a week and a half. So I was like, oh, I just need to take a vacation.
As simple as that. Yeah. No, I think that's really good. And I think it's about knowing yourself. And I'll probably actually cover this in the post show, that it's not that these things aren't going to happen. It's not that we're not going to get caught up in our same cycles. It's how quickly can we recognize that they're happening? And then do we have the tools to get them out of us and get them, us to move forward through that, instead of having to sit in it for maybe so long. So and just watching your journey from that moment ever since, and like things keep evolving, things keep growing, things keep moving forward. Sometimes we get knocked a couple steps back, and like all of that is okay, because now I can start to see that like you have the trust, and I think you always have had it. It just wasn't as bright and glaring to you, that like things are gonna work out as they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But that might not be our way.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like, I know that I've had it in some way, shape, or form, because I would not have traveled if I didn't know in some way, like internally, that something was going to happen in the future that I wouldn't be able to do it. But whether it was like, I know this is going to sound morbid, but whether it was death or whether it was a pandemic, like I didn't know, but I knew that I had to do it then. And when I look at, even 2020 as a whole, just the fact that I lost 2 jobs in 9 months, like that's another big, basically like, okay, this is your sign. This is how I kind of knew to trust that going in this direction the second time, maybe even if you want to call it the third time, like third time's a charm, right? After that, abstract adventure blog that didn't really work, I was like, okay, I know investing in myself is going to get me further. I invested in myself, and it was a lot of teaching. And then the third time that I was like, all right, what do I have to do? And then it was investing in myself for me to realize like, you get to do the thing. Third time's a charm. So yeah, I think I always kind of knew, but it was just very slow. Yeah.
Well, and I think that slow is perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause you're 27. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and there, like the amount that you have done and what you have been able to bring to life, and the life experiences that you have, because you have been willing to put yourself out there so many times and trust that little spark. Right. And I think that that's something that there's so many men and women who are probably listening to this right now that have that little spark. They just keep putting it out. Or they haven't surrounded themselves by people who ignite that spark instead of put that flame down, or like try to put it out because it sounds a little too scary. It sounds a little too out there. So for you, like, I honor you for that, because something that I don't think that you always see in yourself is 1000% the resiliency, and what you have never, you have been through so much in just the short amount of time that I have known you. The transformation is unreal, but you have never even considered giving up on yourself and your dreams. Like, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to have to do, but I'm going to do this. And I think that that's a really, really powerful thing to have. So, kudos to you for that.
Well, thank you.
So I always love to just kind of leave with one final question, which you did kind of answer, but you might have a different one. Let's see what comes up for you. But what is one lesson you feel like you are in the middle of learning right now?
Continuing to recognize those cycles within myself, and maybe making it a little bit quicker instead of waiting so long. I think that one's definitely a big one, but I do know that I have started working on it a lot more, and it is definitely a lot easier now than it ever was, because before, I mean, even when you were just talking about this, how I had this little spark and I just never give up. Before, I would always say to like people who would ask me, "What are you going to do?" I'd always be like, "Well, I'll figure something out." And like now I kind of figured it out. It's really just a matter of like recognizing it earlier. So that would definitely be the lesson that is going on, continuing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that those they never stop. And again, it's a matter of these things are going to continue to pop up, especially as you continue to have more life experience and go through different things. Like it's a constant learning process. So I think it's amazing that you have started that process and you're realizing it so vastly, just really how much it impacts you, right? Like you knowing you and understanding you is really the key to bringing anything that you want to life. Like I truly believe that. So, Fallon, I know that people are going to want to connect with you and like just kind of see what you're up to right now. So, obviously, she has her notebook, but she has some other things. Where can people kind of find you and learn more about you?
Everywhere. You can definitely find me on Instagram. I am at Fallon K. Moran. You can find me on TikTok. I'm at Fallon Carey. That's my middle name. And then that's my middle name is not part of my TikTok handle. Carey is just my middle name. So I just want to like say that as a follow up, just in case people don't know.
We'll put it in the show notes just so
yeah.
people don't get confused.
Yeah. My YouTube channel is Fallon K. Moran. My Facebook group that I have a bunch of amazing women who are all entrepreneurs is the Business Blueprint for Scatterbrains. And then you can also find me at my website, www.fallonkmoran.com.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So many places. So connect in any way that you possibly can. Fallon truly does love to connect with people on a personal level. So reach out to her if anything about this kind of is, or if you just need a really, really badass notebook or guidance. And she has been coaching on some of the things that she's been through. So make sure that you reach out to her. She has so much to offer. If nothing else, like Fallon is just a bright light in your day. And so be willing to show up and just kind of see what she's out there doing. Fallon, thank you so much for being part of the podcast and just sharing your story, because I think that hearing people's stories allows us to understand that everything that happens is so different for each person. And we can learn, like, just because your story is different doesn't mean that there wasn't so many learning opportunities. And so thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is super fun. I'm very grateful.
Of course, of course. Welcome to the Evolve Beyond Limits post show. We just got done speaking with Fallon, and there were a lot of things that I could pull out of that. But the thing that I want to focus on for a second, because it's a good reminder to me, as well as everybody listening, is the whole being willing to ask for help. So here's the thing, like Fallon was in this dark spot and she wasn't sure which way to turn, where to go. And it wasn't until she really reached out for support that she was able to move through. And it didn't happen right away, but we have to recognize when we just can't do it alone. And me, being a highly independent woman, had a really hard time asking for help. I used to think that asking for help and needing to be vulnerable with somebody, having somebody else point out maybe the things that I'm not seeing, because we can't see our own blind spots. I looked at that as weakness, as a essence of that I can't do it. So obviously I'm weak. That could not be further from the truth. The people who are willing to put themselves out there and ask for help, not only are they the strongest people that I have ever met, because it takes courage. It takes courage to put yourself out there. It takes courage to ask for help. But when they do that, the amazing thing that happens is that they get to move through things faster. They get to have more fun doing it. They get this express lane transformation because they aren't trying to do it alone. And they're willing to let somebody else point out the things that they just might not be seeing. We get so stuck in our own shit, so stuck in our own cycles, so stuck in seeing the world one way that we can't get out of it. We need somebody else to come in and say, let me help you. This is my zone of genius, and I am going to help you get out of this because you're just stuck. So, my question and my challenge for you after this week's episode is, where are those areas in your life? Where are the things that you are refusing to ask for help for? Right? And I'll share one with you that Andrew and I did last year. We were stuck in our finances. We were stuck in the same cycle, living the same cycle over and over and over. And finances can be a touchy subject that we don't talk about nearly enough as a society. And we wanted to do things different. And so we finally hired a coach. We hired somebody to help us. And that allowed us to fast track our way to a completely different life and challenge us in ways that we wouldn't have had the accountability, nor the drive, or even a different lens to look at things through, a different perspective to see, to be able to get to where we wanted to go. So look at your life. What is the thing that you're stuck in right now? Is it your relationships? Is it with how you feel about yourself? Is it your health? Is it finances? Is it your business? What is it? And who are you willing to let help you? But here's the thing, you have to be willing to ask. People don't know unless you ask for help. That's the first step. So look at your life this week and say, what are the areas that I could use some extra help in? And it's funny because a lot of times we create our own suffering for so much longer than we actually have to, because we aren't willing to either one, look at it, or two, ask for help. Because we don't get to go around things. We don't get to go up and over things. We have to go through them. So where could you invest into your future this week to fast track your way to some place that you want to be in the future? Or are you going to sit there and you're going to let yourself still be stuck? Think about it. Sending you so much love and light. And after this week, I hope that you can see that it's okay if you're stuck in the shit right now. It's okay. We all get stuck in the shit. But understand that you always have an opportunity to turn that around. But it's going to require getting uncomfortable. And sometimes that discomfort comes with asking for an outside perspective. Letting somebody help you. All right. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you take a minute to rate and review the podcast. It means the absolute world to us. And please share this with anybody who you think needs to hear it, because our mission doesn't get out unless you are willing to share this and offer people a different perspective on their life. So please do that. Also, we would love to have you part of the Evolve Beyond Limits texting community. You can text Journal 2021 to 248-206-3431, and you will get journal prompts a few times a week. You will also get fun oracle card readings, special offers. You'll make sure that you don't miss any of the workshops that we have coming up, or even when we open enrollment and getting on the wait list for Evolve Beyond Limits Academy. All of that fun stuff comes through the texting community. So definitely hit that up. And until next week, keep evolving.